Hey there, welcome back to another episode of JRCTV. Today we're focused on how to strengthen and improve your willpower. So what is willpower? Willpower is the ability to look right into the eyes of temptation. Something that's challenging you, that's trying to pull you off track, that's saying, hey, choose me, choose me. Whether that's a temptation, a physical temptation, an emotional temptation, a dietary temptation, a relationship temptation, or dating, I don't know what you want to call it, but something that you know is not good for you. It's not good for others. It does not serve the greater good of humanity. You stare that thing right in the eye and you go, you know what? I'm going to choose a better option today. I'm going to choose something that is good for me. I'm going to choose something that is good for others and does serve humanity overall. Class 1 experience is what we like to refer to them at Performance Coach University. But that thought, you choose a Class 1 experience. Now, how do you improve your willpower is interesting. According to researchers, the number one area of your mind and body you need to take care of if you want to enhance your willpower is your prefrontal cortex. What's that? That gray matter up in the front of your brain. Now, how do you improve this area? It's pretty simple. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, and there's something else they refer to as decision fatigue. Dum, dum, dum. So in that thought process of these three categories, let's start with sleep real quick. You know as well as I do, we did an interview with a gentleman named Sean Stevenson, who's a good friend of ours. He wrote a book called Sleep Smarter. And in this book, he describes why sleep is so important, how some of the greatest athletes, peak performers on earth, Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, they all sleep anywhere between 8 to 12 hours a night. Why? Because they want their mind, emotions, and physical body to perform at its absolute best. Now, whenever I talk to clients who are entrepreneurs, successful business owners, executives in different companies, inevitably they tell me, well, yeah, if I was competing in the Olympics or at that level, of course I would sleep that much to rebuild my body. And I said, listen, there's a mindset piece that's out of place here. If you don't believe that you going to work every day is the equivalent of your Olympics, if you don't believe that there's a gold, silver, or bronze rating every single day on your performance of how you show up, you got to adjust your mindset. Because the truth is, wherever you go to work every day, that's your Olympics. You get to decide if you're going to win, get a gold, come in first, if you're going to settle for second, third, or the memory you were there that day. Like all those other people we don't remember that came and ran. Wonderful human beings. The challenge is life rewards those who really, really, really push themselves and excel at the highest level. So are you going to show up in that way? So this first thing called sleep, the minimum levels you need to perform at your best is at least 7.5 to 8 hours a night. So grab a copy of our worksheet and you can kind of rate yourself on how you're doing in these following categories. We give you a worksheet with all the scales on it. So sleep, -10, meaning you're getting less than 5 hours of sleep a night. That's horrific for you. There's research and studies show that after 3 nights in a row of getting less than, I think, 6 or 5 hours of sleep per night, it's the equivalent of not sleeping at all for 2 days, which is the equivalent of being drunk cognitively in your brain. So you don't want that. So that would be a -10. 0 would be you're getting between 5 to 6 hours, 5 to 7 hours of sleep per night. It's enough to survive, but not enough to really thrive. And maybe a 5 to 10 is rating between the next so many chunks of time in 15-minute segments. A 10 would be anywhere between 8 to 12 hours. Ideally, though, you're probably 7.5, which would be like 9, really, really well. And so that's what we're aiming for here. How do we scale you to know where you need to get better at this? Now from there, if you're getting your 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every single night as an entrepreneur or executive out there, the next part is nutrition. Here's what's wild. You can read 20 different books on nutrition and get 20 different opinions, plus the newest fad of quick abs or super slim diet or the maximum whatever diet that just came out. Now what's wild is we know there's some staples. The staples are you need to make sure you're not eating processed foods. You're not eating high sugar foods. You're only eating green vegetables and some type of protein that goes with it. Now, I like fish, so I stick with clean, either salmon or white fish. Not a lot of mercury or other toxins that have built up in these fish, and always line caught fresh with vegetables. Stick that together, it always works out for great performance mentally and physically. Has lots of great fats for your brain, also very healthy. But again, make your own decisions in this area. Just make sure that you're choosing the right options. And we all know the difference. If you're reaching for snacks and candy bars and the machine at work to go grab a snack in between meetings, that's horrific for you. Make better choices, come up with a plan, organize your system to make sure you always have proper fuel, high quality, high performance fuel for yourself throughout the day. The next piece we want to do here is exercise. What does this need to be? Well, you need a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, according to doctors, and that's for the average person. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a household that trying to be average is a horrific statement and goal. Therefore, you need to step up above and beyond. 10,000 is a minimum you should be hitting every day. So one thing we like to use is these little Fitbit bands that track our steps. So far today, I'm at, let's check, 10,770 steps for the morning. Now, what's interesting, we use these to track and measure our performance. So you need at least 10,000 steps a day, 7 days a week. The other factor of what you want to focus on and consider here is you want to also track your heart rate. This is so important because some people might get the 10,000 steps in, but you never actually exercise your heart, which is kind of what keeps your whole body going, that and breathing. So if you want to keep your heart in great shape and lower your risk of a heart attack or coronary disease, any of these things, you need at least 30 to 40 minutes of aerobic exercise. I would say a minimum of 5 days a week. So minimum 5 days a week, go out there and get in your 30 to 40 minutes of aerobic exercise. That means your heart is elevated to an aerobic pace for your age and body. How do you get that? Just Google aerobic heart rate. And it's usually, I think it's 180 minus your age gives you the number you're aiming for. If you have one of these little jawbones or up bands or Fitbits or whatever you want to call them, the neat part is they have apps that tell you where your heart rate is, and it tells you how many minutes of the day you're able to stay in that fat burning zone, aerobic zone, and max heart rate. It's a really great way to measure it. So that's the other thing. There's habits and times of the day you can use these habits that'll help keep you at your best even when you're in a weak moment. So when's a weak moment? They say if you don't get enough sleep, what happens is because the sugar cannot get up to your brain and you didn't have enough time for your whole body to regenerate, you start to reach for more sugary foods later in the evening. So think back to a night when you didn't sleep very well, and the next day, what was the likelihood you reached for some type of snack at late afternoon or in the evening when you were getting tired? A little ice cream bar, a little candy bar, a little something, you wanted some sugar. Usually that's a sign you're not sleeping well enough. And the other piece you want to do here is you want to pre-plan in routines for the later hours on times when you're high stressed at work or in life. What does that mean? You want to build in a routine, a natural cue that'll go off. If we look at routines, the best way to learn how to do them is the book Habits by Charles Duhigg. And in this book, he talks about building a routine or a habit, a good habit. It needs a trigger or cue. So you can use the time of day as your trigger. 7 at night, 8 at night, that's your trigger, your cue to say, oh, what's the routine? I stand up, I go to the kitchen, and I prepare myself some healthy, genuinely fulfilling and nutritious meals. Whether that's a nutritious snack, a handful of unsalted nuts, raw nuts there, whether it's a protein shake, something that's very, very healthy for you, some supplements, whether it's, those orange juices you can drink, like those little vitamin C packs, or some greens and veggie juice. We like Amazing Grass, lemongrass flavor. It's very good for you. Veggies mashed up in a powder you put in water and drink. But something you have pre-set up that at that time you always do it so that you're naturally getting the reward, which is the third step of a habit. Cue, routine, reward. Cue, certain time of day, 7 o'clock at night when you always reach for the junk food. Routine, stand up to the kitchen, go get that vegetable juice or green drink. Reward, you satiate your stomach and brain with something healthy and nutritious before your body has a chance to reach for the not so great thing that's going to take you out of the game tomorrow and bring you down in that cycle. So that's the other piece. You want to build a habit around the times when you're weak. Now, some people are weak in the morning, some people are weak in the midday, some people are weak at night. Figure out when your weakest point is on the worksheet today. Figure out when your weakest point is and come up with 3 different routines you can do that'll be healthy, nutritious, and literally vitalize your mind and body instead of something that'll tear you down, take you out of the game, and cause you to feel worse tomorrow. Have fun with this. Download the worksheet. Figure out how to maximize your sleep. There's a couple sleep tips in that worksheet. Figure out how to maximize your nutrition. There's a handful of nutrition tips in that worksheet. Figure out how to maximize your exercise. Again, a couple tips we put in there in that worksheet. And finally, figure out how to build a powerful habit to offset the weak points. Have fun with this, and we look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of JRCTV.